This is Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
This is AJ Mitchell, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Alex Crusoe, and I'm down to dunk.
It's like baby bottle pop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is Adam Flagler, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, it's Isaiah Hartenstein, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kason Wallace, and I'm down to dunk.
I can't spell Lucas. Hey, how do you spell Lucas? How do you spell Lucas?
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Nikola Topic, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Dylan Jones, and I'm down to dunk. This is Isaiah Joe, and I'm down to dunk.
And there's probably like 50 to 75 Beanie Babies.
Give me like your top 3 Pokemon.
Brother, I can't even name.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
Sometimes the way his brain works is it leaves a lot to be desired.
This is Kenrich Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
Charmander.
Yeah.
Charmander. Or you're more of a Charmeleon guy.
Charmeleon.
This is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
Schlecht. You know what it
Schlecht?
means? Yeah.
That means like bad.
It means bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, it was a good interview, so it wasn't bad.
J-Dub, year 3, and I'm down to dunk for the 3rd time. Thank you.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on a Wednesday, it's my good friend Alex Speers. Alex, what's up? Alex, I don't hear you at all. Are you completely muted? No? Are we
How about now? Welcome, Andrew.
I was like, we are having some technical difficulties. Listen, we may be struggling out the gate, but the Thunder are not. They are not. They're 7-0 right now. Flawless. Something else that's flawless is that we're doing the Fry Pod live this Friday after Down to Dunk Night. So Down to Dunk Night this Friday at the arena against the Houston Rockets. We'll have all the dunkers there after the game. We will go down on the court and we will do a half-court shot contest. And if you hit a half-court shot, you will. As long as, if it's only one person that hits it, you just automatically win. If it's multiple people that hit it, we go to a shoot-off. But if you are the one to win this, you get a basketball signed by this Oklahoma City Thunder team, which, by the way, pretty cool. Probably one of the coolest prizes we've got. And friend of the show, pitcher from the Texas Rangers, Andrew Heaney, is giving us tickets, his personal tickets. He thought the Dunkers needed to have tickets for a game, and so he is giving his own tickets to a game, which are very nice seats, by the way. And we're very grateful for that. So it's a pretty big prize there. But we are going to do the Fry Pod live at Lively Beer Works after the game. So after the game ends, you can walk over there. I think it's like less than a mile, or you can drive over there from the game. And it's going to be really fun. So we'll record a show about the game. We will do live TQs. It's going to be very fun. So whether or not you're actually attending Down to Dunk Night at the arena, you are welcome to join us at Lively Beer Works after the game. You could even, I think you could watch the game at Lively as well. So if you just want to just hang out at Lively and then just be there for the Fry Pod Live, you can do that as well. So be there at Lively Beer Works. It's at 815 Southwest 2nd Street in Oklahoma City. That's 815 Southwest 2nd Street in OKC. So very much looking forward to that. We'll have the belt there live. We'll have the L-Man there live, Jay Taylor. So please be there or be square.
Andrew, will there be a pregame meetup? Asks.
We will not do a pregame meetup, but we will do postgame meetup on the court, and then we will meet up for the Fry Pod Live. So good question.
But I will say, I don't even know if it was formal the last time, but there's a burger place called Spark right by the arena.
Yeah.
And if you go there, there will be dunkers there before the game. I could almost guarantee it.
There will be dunkers.
There will be dunkers.
I won't be there, but
Andrew won't be there.
Won't be there. So the Thunder beat the Orlando Magic on Monday night in OKC without Paolo Banchero, without Wendell Carter Jr. It was not much of a game. The Thunder actually like didn't really even play that well down the stretch and still won by a lot. They sat Chet. I think like one of the bigger stories from that game was that like Chet only played 21 and a half minutes in this one.
Yeah.
And, like, frankly didn't need to play all that much. Some people were wondering, like he had a kind of some nasty falls and like stuff going one with like Goga Batadze that like didn't look great.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was hurt. Not hurt. Mark Daignault told us after the game that was totally his call to sit Chet. And, it's one way that you can do some load management for these guys is that if you're beating teams like a drum like this, you don't necessarily have to play them the whole game.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I mean, the years when like Golden State was super good, I mean, it was like one of the stories how few like fourth quarter minutes Steph played compared to like other stars. So you should absolutely take advantage of it, not just because it's good to preserve these guys as long as possible and try to avoid injury, but also you're a super deep team. You're already shown that you've been willing to play all of these guys, and as more guys come back healthy, you're going to have even more options. So these are the benefits of having such a deep roster. I mean, once Hartenstein, J. Will, and Kenrich are back, there should be a lot of games where Chet only plays 20 minutes because he just doesn't need to play anymore.
Yeah. It's funny just because I mean they played very small for a lot of this game. They played Dylan Jones at center. Caruso talked post game about how he was at the 5 many times during that game, which is like not surprising because the Thunder have been really successful playing small. Like that was essentially how they became like this team, is that even before they got Chet, they would play small and it worked. And now that they have Chet and then they go small whenever he's not on the court, unsurprisingly it's working, and they have better personnel, this time around. And so, this is just kind of a part of what they do is they have the starting lineup with Chet and then they play small, and they are a group that's very used to that. And so there's a lot of that's like unsurprising to me, that one, that they would do it, and two, that it would be successful.
Yeah. These are the benefits. And it's such a, I mean, I know that at least in OKC's case, or at least in Dylan Jones' case, it is partly injury related.
Sure.
But it's such a flex for OKC to be able to give first quarter minutes to rookies.
Yeah.
Like Taylor just sent something to our Down to Dunk chat, which was just a screenshot. It looks like it's from like NBA.com. Reed Shepherd scores season high 7 points Monday. Like this guy that, me and McKellar were super high on, really excited to see him play. And he just like can't get on the court. And Houston's like a good team, but they are not what OKC is. And you look at some of the first round picks, or not even the first round picks, just like the lottery picks, guys who are just not getting as many opportunities. I mean, Rob Dillingham has played 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Saloon has played 17. Yeah. Even someone like Donovan Clingan has only played 34. Cody Williams on a terrible, terrible Jazz team has played 32 minutes. Yeah, Montes Buzelis, 5 minutes. These are terrible teams that can't find a way to get their rookies on the court. And OKC has somehow found a way to get 2 guys on the court regularly.
Yeah, and like a second rounder. I mean, the 38th
and a second rounder. Yeah,
I mean that's pretty wild. Yeah, it's really just Memphis and OKC that are like finding like serious time, that are decent.
Well, and Risache, he's playing a lot.
Yeah, as much of a Hawks guy as I am, I
know. And the other one that's kind of crazy is Missy. He's starting for them right now.
He's been fine. But that's also out of necessity. Like it is bad in New Orleans.
Do you know what the name of the rookie who has played the most minutes this season?
Oh, that's a good question. Is it Jalen Wells?
It's Jalen Wells. Yeah, more than Reese Ashe.
Yeah. He's been. I mean, the Grizzlies kind of need what he is. He's like a 6'8", decently athletic wing. Like they kind of need that kind of guy. especially with the amount of guys that are out for them. But yeah, it's going to be a weird rookie of the year race. Zach Edey had that game the other night. That was clearly the best game of any rookie, where he scored 25 points. He had several threes, several blocks. He looked great. But yeah, that's like the only rookie standout game so far,
Yeah. I mean, he's fouled out like of a game, at least one game.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't gotten probably as many minutes as you might have assumed going into the season.
Mm-hmm.
He's still leading the rookie class in points per game.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
It's really,
but I do think Alex Sarr has a chance to end up being the rookie of the year by the end of the year, because his block numbers have been pretty crazy.
He started to put up some numbers. Yeah. Double the other night. Yeah, him and Bub are probably going to both have a case just because they're going to get the minutes.
Will it cause a rift, Andrew?
Oh, between the rookies?
Yeah. Do you think Bill Simmons will do his alpha dog argument like he once did upon a time with Katie and Russ, but about Sarr and Bub?
I think so. I think you have to predict it. I think that's something that
he's going to be comparing them to the Wire characters.
Oh man. So the Thunder did start Cason Wallace against the Magic. What's been your favorite starting lineup so far? Is it that one? Is it the Wiggins one? Is it the Joe lineup? What do you like so far?
I think I do. I mean, it does feel recency bias. And by the way, no minutes, barely any minutes, super small sample size, but that has been the most positive one with Cason in the starting lineup. I like it because he's clearly the best. If we're just thinking about Wiggins and Joe, because those are the only three guys who have gotten a chance to be in the starting lineup.
Yep.
He's clearly the best defender of those three.
Yeah.
And he doesn't take a ton off of the table offensively. Now, I do think Wiggins early on has shown to be more versatile offensively than he was last year. And so right now, I would say that, the Wiggins is probably the better offensive player. And then Joe is clearly the best shooter of the three. But I think Cason gives you kind of like a nice mix while also being the best defender of the three. I'd still like to see, maybe he can move up from eighth man, but I would like to see Caruso get a shot at the starting lineup just at some point, just to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then when Hartenstein comes back, I would obviously like to see that one too. But if we're just talking about those three guys, I do think the Cason lineup is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's tough. I might even go Joe second, because I do like having that shooting boost. And he has been on fire as of late.
He was great. He had his own personal 9-0 run.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, the crowd, that was probably the loudest the crowd got the whole night, was when he hit that third three. And then you're just like, okay, find him another one. Can we not just get him another one? Can we get this guy a heat check? I don't care if it's from half court. Like, let this guy get his heat check. He didn't get his heat check on the next possession. But yeah, I think I agree. I like the Cason lineup. I want to see Caruso. That was what I predicted would happen, and it has not happened once. So
yeah,
it's not really just because of my prediction. I just want to see it. I just want to see what it looks like. They've been using Caruso as like this utility guy, which is, that's what he is. But he just comes off the bench and just plays whatever role he's asked to. And it was funny hearing him talk after the game, where he said that he played the 4 some in Chicago and was excited to come here because he thought he would play more on the wing. And he's like, I'm playing the 5. So
yeah,
a lot of it obviously it's out of necessity, but
right.
I would like to see what that lineup looks like, because I would, to have Dort and Caruso out there at the same time in a starting lineup. That the Thunder defense has already been just ridiculous, but to have those guys out on the court all together all at once, it wouldn't surprise me if that was like a closing lineup for a playoff game. But I do think that Cason gives you
a lot of that
Yeah.
defensively. I mean, even watching him and Dort last night communicating, or not last
Totally.
night, well, it was on Monday.
Yeah.
Watching them communicate, like they're doing a lot of the same things. I mean, the big thing that jumps out with Caruso is just his. I mean, his on-ball play is very good, but like his off-ball play and seeing him like anticipate some of these passes and then either getting the steal outright or tipping it to another teammate. You see that a lot with Kaysen as well.
Yeah.
Just kind of like sitting on guys and waiting for them to make a pass. And in fact, I just looked it up to see if this would be correct. But Alex Caruso leading the team in deflections per game, 3.7. Kaysen Wallace, number 2, 3.4.
Wow.
Dort at third, 3.3. So those are deflection kings right there.
Yeah.
And J-Dub, to his credit, 3.1. Those are the 4 guys who are over 3 per game. So yeah, I mean, I don't totally get the usage of Caruso just yet, but it doesn't really matter because they have so many options there. And if any of him playing fewer minutes than maybe we would have expected is just trying to keep him healthy for the playoffs because he has had so many injuries over the past couple seasons, I think I'm all for that. Because if you can get Caruso to the playoffs healthy, that player in the playoffs, assuming his offense eventually comes around, will be incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no issue with any of it. They are just, I mean, they're by far and away the best defense in the NBA so far. And the way that Mark is using them in that way is working. And then offensively, it's starting to come around a little bit. Yeah, I mean, they still have a 93.8 defensive rating, and so some of that's like they just played an Orlando Magic team that cannot score. Like they just cannot do it. I wondered if they were even going to get to 80. It didn't look like it. They had a fine fourth quarter, and it felt like the Thunder like took their foot off the gas a little bit in the fourth quarter defensively, and then the Magic were able to get up to 86. But
Yeah,
some of this who they've played is how they've gotten there, but also like their defense is suffocating.
Yeah, so if you want to know like where their opponents have ranked offensively this season, so Denver is still the best. I mean, they were terrible in that game against OKC, and it was at home, so you got to give them credit for that. But Denver has been the 5th best offense since. Well, not since, just even including that game. Atlanta is 13th. The other 5 teams, the Clippers 22nd, Bulls 23rd, Spurs 27th, Portland 28th, Orlando 29th.
Yeah.
That's where their offensive rank is currently. Yeah. So they have had a nice little run here of playing some truly bad offensive teams. And that is definitely boosted. I mean, they're so far ahead in defensive rating right now. You kind of know that, okay, this can't be that real. Like it can't be that.
Yeah.
They're going to be, they might still be the number 1 defense, but it can't be that.
It can't be 93.8.
Yeah.
Which that's a number that makes no sense. I mean, just for reference, I mean, last season, the Wolves had the best defensive rating in the league at a 108.4.
Yeah.
That was the defensive rating that was the best. The year before that, it was the Cavs at a 109.9.
I think you legitimately have to go back to like the early 2000s to see a 93.
Yeah, let me see how far we have to go back. In 06, 07, 98 was the best.
Yeah, go to like 04.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to 04 and see. 04 is the San Antonio Spurs, 93.1. Detroit was 93.9. So you've got to go back literally 21 years.
And even then, I mean, those are 2 of the best defenses of all time.
Yeah.
And even then, like the 3rd best defense that year was a 96.
Yeah.
So like it was still like within the realm, even though they were also very good compared to the rest of the league. This is just if this kept up, it would be clearly the best defense of all time. There'd be zero argument about it. But as I mentioned, they have played a ton of bad offenses. Now listen to this, Andrew. This is from Cleaning the Glass. 5 of their 7 games so far, they've held opposing teams under 94 points per 100 possessions. Last season, in 82 games, they did that 10 times.
Wow.
But on the flip side, Orlando's last 2 games since Paulo went out, their offensive rating 83.1 and 89.1. Last season, they only had 2 games out of 82 where they scored under 90 points per 100 possessions. They've already had 2 of those games, and it's just these most recent 2 with Paulo out. They're so screwed. I don't know what the answer is because a lot of the guys they have added are not guys who are going to like fill up the bucket. They're not going to do it. Like Anthony Black is not going to suddenly be able to step in and be a 15 point per game scorer. Even KCP is not going to be able to step in and suddenly be a consistent 15 point per game scorer.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the offense is going to come from. I mean, like Jet Howard is probably a guy where like you have to consider him just because like maybe he would have some offense.
But also
like,
no. But also no.
But who else on their roster? They're not going to be able to survive the way they are playing currently.
I don't know. I don't understand why Cole Anthony doesn't play. And I'm not a Cole Anthony guy, but if you're just looking for points,
yeah,
like why would you not play him? I mean, the guys they're playing off the bench, and maybe this is just because they really need to develop Anthony Black because they spent a very high lottery pick on him. But like Caleb Houston, Jonathan Isaac, Jet Howard, Anthony Black, Mo Wagner was coming off the bench. There's like no points, from those guys.
Yeah, that's a great point on Cole Anthony. I didn't even realize he is only averaging 11.6 points per game, and he's not injured.
No.
That's so weird.
Working out before the game.
That's half of what he's played in his career.
Yeah, it's very strange. Yeah, he's averaging 2 points per game. Last year he was at almost 12. I don't quite get what's going on there for him.
But yeah,
he can score.
So many. You look at their rotation, like Tristan Da Silva, Mo Wagner.
A lot of Da Silva. That's a lot of Da Silva.
Like where are you scoring any points?
You don't. They don't. They don't do it. They were lucky.
Mac McClung.
They were lucky that Jalen Suggs had a really nice fourth quarter where he was 10, 2, and 4 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and he's been good this season, but he's not a number 2 offensive option.
No,
he's not number 3. He might be like a number 5 on a really good team.
No.
They feel like a team because the Banchero injury is so nebulous. Like it sounds like 4 to 6 weeks, and then they'll check. Not like some guarantee that he's back. So I don't know if a team was going to make a move. They feel like a team. You were bringing up Dennis Schroeder. I don't know if in reference to them, but just in general, like, he'd be a nice trade piece for someone.
Yeah, Schroeder would
help. If they're not going to play Cole Anthony, like, yeah, go get Schroeder.
And you can play him next to Jalen Suggs too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just don't want to make a short-sighted move though if you're the Magic, because Schroeder's got a 1-year deal.
Oh, I know, but they have. I mean, they have so many. It's not exactly the Houston problem, but like they have so many young guys.
Yeah. Hey,
they could
flip. If you're not going to play Cole Anthony, just flip Cole Anthony for him, right?
Yeah, and maybe you could get more back.
Yeah. Yeah, they could. I mean, if you're the Nets, might as well try a guy like Cole and just see what he's got. Because obviously they're not going anywhere with Schroeder. I know they've had a nice, encouraging first few games of the season or whatever. Like they're not making the play-in. They're not like going to be anything. So like they just need to cycle in young guys in and out. You got Schroeder on a 1-year deal who probably go elsewhere after this season. So like, what are we even doing?
KCP shooting under 30% from the field.
Listen, he's the missing piece for this team that the Thunder are playing on Wednesday. He's the reason why this all fell apart. He was the linchpin. Pulled out the linchpin. It's just all fell apart.
Yeah, the Magic really leaned into that defensive identity.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was basically offensively, like we are a team that has Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, and we just hope that we can score enough.
Yeah.
And they cannot. It is not working for the Orlando Magic. So the Thunder are 7-0, first time in franchise history. They're the first team ever in NBA history to have the margin of victory that they've had and start 7-0. So this is an exceptional team. And even before they have one of their better players actually play minutes for them in Isaiah Hartenstein and have any semblance of a backup center, which we talked about earlier, they don't necessarily need. But is there anything that you watch and you think, you know what? I'm a little concerned about this with this Thunder team. Is there anything at all?
So one thing I was concerned about, but has gotten better, is Chet shooting. He
Mhm.
did start 0 of 10 from 3. He's since gone 8 for 16.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
J-Dub, it's not like I'm super worried, but he just hasn't looked like J-Dub. Now, he did in that first half against the Magic.
He was great.
He was awesome, and he looked so comfortable at all 3 levels. Like, he was hitting threes, he was getting to the rim, he was shooting, pull-ups. I'm not super worried about him, except for like those J-Dub only lineups where he really needs to be the one driving that offense. It really would. You see in those lineups why it would be nice to just have like another ball handler out there, like a Topic, for instance,
or like Hartenstein. Honestly,
yeah, Hartenstein. That actually might be the thing that makes it look a lot better. Now, I did go on PBP stats. And even though I feel that way, like the J-Dub without Shea minutes have actually been good. They've been a plus 10 net rating.
Yeah.
And they're plus 14 when they're together.
Mm-hmm.
Now they are plus 38 when Dub is out and Shea's on the court. But yeah, like those lineups haven't looked great at times. Like if a team's going to make a run on the Thunder, it's usually happened during those lineups.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm not too worried, and there's a lot of things about J-Dub's stats that are just they feel unsustainable in a good way. Like I don't know if it's still the case, but he was shooting like in the 30s from 2, which is just stupid. That's not going to keep up.
Yeah, he's already up to 48% from 2, and
is he really? Yeah, just after that one game. Wow.
Yeah, 38.9% from 3, 45% from the field. So like those numbers are already turning.
Yeah, and so once those bounce back up, I just think it'll those lineups we're going to start seeing the fourth quarter Dub stuff again.
Yeah.
So other things I would be worried about. I mean, I guess you have to be worried about the offense a little bit.
Okay.
Just because the quality of the opponents they've played so far. I mean, they haven't. The Clippers are a good defense, and Orlando has been a good defense, but the rest of these teams that they've played just haven't really looked good defensively. And so I just want to see them against a really good team. I know that we saw them against Denver, but as we've seen at this point, like Denver has had such a cupcake schedule that has kind of made their poor start look not as awful as it truly is.
Yeah.
I mean, they've gotten to play Toronto twice, who they've barely beat both times.
I was going to say they beat him in overtime in one game, and they were an RJ Barrett 3 from going in, from losing that one against Toronto. And
yeah, so I don't even like. I mean, it was obviously a great win. It's on the road, but that Denver team, I don't know if they're good right now. I don't know if I should really think of them as a good team when they're barely beating teams like Toronto and Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, they just lost Aaron Gordon to a calf strain for
weeks.
What will be weeks. I mean, that is such a bad one. I was talking on the NBA Daily. They came out this morning. Please listen to the NBA Daily, the Athletic NBA Daily. Search for it. It's just a 20-minute recap of the night before, and then Slam and Jam with Alex and I. It is on Saturdays, so please listen to that show. I was talking about it, and like, here's their upcoming schedule for the Nuggets: Thunder, Heat, Mavericks, Pelicans, Grizzlies, Mavericks, Lakers, Knicks is their next 9 games. That's terrifying. Like, how many of those games are they going to win? I mean, you look at the losses that they had. They lost to Minnesota in a close one, but in that game,
Gordon had 31.
I was going to say Gordon was awesome. They still had Jamal, who was actually really bad in that one. But like no Gordon and no Jamal. And I don't know when Jamal's coming back because he's under concussion protocol. But like missing Aaron Gordon now during this stretch and more, honestly, but like during this specific stretch, I'm just like, how many wins are they even going to get in that 9
No,
games?
their wins this season: Toronto, Brooklyn, Utah, Toronto. Those are the only teams they've beaten.
Yeah. Those are some of the worst teams in the league. And they obviously got destroyed by the Thunder, lost to the Clippers, who like the Clippers, we saw them. They're not that good.
No, I mean
lost to Minnesota.
they're good enough to be in a lot of close games because their defense does seem to play pretty well, but offensively, James Harden is not. He did not just suddenly step in a time machine and go back, and he's Houston James Harden again.
Yeah,
like he's been fine, but he's not that player.
Yeah, and Norman is likely not going to shoot 45% from three on 9 attempts all season.
He might. I think he was over 40% last year.
He was 43% last year.
Yeah,
45 is wild though. On that many attempts, he was only at 5 attempts last year, and they were like basically a majority were like wide open corner threes.
So like when I think about really testing out some of these perceived weaknesses of a 7-0 team, like I'm looking at that Golden State game, which is this Sunday.
Yep.
Because Golden State has been really good. If you look at point differential, it's like OKC's plus 17.3, Golden State's plus 17.1, and third is the Kings at like plus 4.3.
Mm-hmm.
So Golden State and OKC in the West, at least, have been far and away better than any of these other teams. So I'm really interested in that game. And then I'm really interested in the Phoenix game, which is not this Friday, but the following Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not back-to-back, but the following game is Dallas. So those 3 games, Golden State, Phoenix, Dallas, I feel like we'll have a much clearer idea of like what really are, if there are weaknesses on this team, what is it going to be? And I assume it's going to be things on offense. But who is like the best defense outside of OKC right now? I guess Boston. Let me see.
Yeah.
So, Golden State. Golden State is number 2 in the league, and Dallas is number 4, and Phoenix is number 5. So yeah, those are all 3 going to be great tests for OKC. Phoenix actually has the 18th ranked offense. They're the reason they've been so good is because of their defense. Shout out to Ryan Dunn.
Shout out to Ryan Dunn. Yeah, I mean Orlando's 3rd in defense. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I was asking people at the arena this question the other night, and I got lots of different answers. But who do you think the second best team in the West is?
You know what? I was super high on them in the preseason. I'm going with Golden State. I think this Golden State team is so much deeper than they've been in the past.
I'll tell you this: I did not hear that answer on Monday night.
That's fine. That's fine. I've been telling people that this Golden State team is better than they think for a long time now, and we survived the Steph injury scare already.
Yeah,
and they were still great without him.
Thrived it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I look at these other teams and like no one's super impressive. I mean, I should probably say Dallas. Dallas is probably the correct answer, even though they haven't been as impressive as they should be.
Yeah.
They lost, but you look at their losses. They lost to Phoenix, Houston, Indiana. Like they haven't had any embarrassing losses. They've beaten who they're supposed to beat, but also like they had their previous game was against Orlando, so they got an Orlando game without Paulo as well.
Orlando bump, yeah.
They got to play Utah and San Antonio, killed both of them, and then they beat Minnesota. So they're like at Minnesota win is their best win.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean
it's a good win. Minnesota's been pretty good.
Yeah. I mean Minnesota's another team you could probably say, but in terms of teams that have actually been impressive this season, I think it's Golden State.
I would say that they have been the most impressive. That's for sure. They're also getting like this wild Buddy Hield stretch.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like as good as they've looked, and the reason they have that big point differential is because they've played a lot of bad teams. But as we've seen with Denver, like you still have to beat those teams and you still have to beat them convincingly.
Mm-hmm.
But their wins, Portland, Utah, 2 games against the Pelicans, which those were like very impressive wins. But at the same time, after they won those games, you like look at New Orleans much differently.
Oh yeah.
And then Houston in overtime, Washington. Their upcoming schedule. This has to be the most brutal schedule of anyone. At Boston, at Cleveland, at Oklahoma City, Dallas. If they would go 1-3, that would be impressive. 3 road games against teams that have a combined 1 loss.
Yeah. That is brutal.
So yeah, maybe this is a little smoke and mirrors with their schedule. So I guess I'll go Dallas then.
Yeah.
Now that I've thought it all through.
Yeah, Dallas I think makes a lot of sense as like the scariest team. I heard Phoenix, which I'm just not really ready to buy into Phoenix yet. I know that they made some nice offseason moves and they've been good. I think they're 7-1, right now to start the season. But I just don't know that I'm ready to buy into them yet either.
I would like to see them against some good teams. Their schedule. I mean, they did beat Dallas, so I mean that's
they did. Yeah, you got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, that's a legit win. But getting to play Philly without Embiid, Portland, 2 games against the Clippers, and then the Lakers, who suddenly don't look that impressive anymore.
No, I think everybody jumped the gun on their Los Angeles Lakers love.
But the Suns have some fun ones coming up. Like they play at Dallas, they play the Kings twice.
Yeah.
And then they play OKC next Friday, followed by at Minnesota. So yeah, it feels like all these like heavy hitters at the top of the West just haven't had a super tough schedule yet.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's been interesting to see what teams have been able to pad their stats, like OKC, like Golden State, and which teams have completely floundered, like Denver. I mean, Denver being 4-3 and being as unimpressive as they have been, and now losing Aaron Gordon.
Yeah,
they don't look like a top 4 seed right now. They don't.
No.
It's even hard for me to like see the path to that, as assuming that some of these other teams pick up in the West. Because if they're going to go this whole stretch, I mean, we'll see when he comes back. But if he's out like 4 to 6 weeks,
I bet you he misses 2 months. I bet you he misses 2 months.
Man, like that's massive. They're having to start Peyton Watson at that point?
It's going to have to be Peyton Watson.
Somehow the shooting gets even worse, even though Aaron Gordon's not really a shooter either.
Yeah. Well, there's just like no gravity.
I know. I mean, at least
gravity.
Aaron Gordon is threatening to attack the rim.
I know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where this goes for them. It is a rough spot to be in. And after these 9 games that are listed out, like I'm so curious what that looks like. Because I mean, I would probably predict that they're like fighting for a play-in spot. Would be my guess. By the end of this, like right now they're 8th and would be 8th in the West. There's a ton of 4-3 teams. But as we get through like the next 10 games or so, we're going to start to kind of see who everybody really is. And if I were to predict, like I don't think they'll fall below like the Clippers or anybody. And like San Antonio, Portland, Pelicans have been brutal, but like Utah, like those, like I don't expect them to drop below those teams, but I expect them to be in like the 9-10 spot, in the West, by after this 10 game stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the standings. I was really rooting for the Spurs. They were playing the Clippers, and they were killing them.
They blew it. They blew it.
Because I have this dream of us getting the best possible Clippers pick, and for that scenario to really happen, I need the Spurs to be better than the Clippers.
I know.
Or Portland. I want the Clippers in that like bottom 3.
That was like a sneaky big game.
But unfortunately, I do think the Clippers are they're not good, but they're good enough.
They're fine. Yeah, they're fine. Like they will probably finish 11th.
Yeah.
Probably finish 11th. Do we have a special guest on the show?
Yeah. What's up, bud? You want to say hi?
Bring him on here.
I got my muffin. Dad, I got muffin.
Cal, what are you doing, dude?
He's eating a muffin, hanging out, just woke up.
Nice. That's amazing.
All right, bro.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Thunder's upcoming schedule. We'll be right back. And we're back after that quick break. Al, the Thunder have a decent upcoming schedule. It definitely looks tougher to start the season with Denver, Houston, the rest of this week. I am intrigued to see them play Houston, they played well in spots, and they have they have a really interesting team that they clearly don't quite know what to think about what they have either. Based on the lineups that they've played.
It's so funny watching them night to night.
Yeah.
To see like who they're going to play, because that Golden State game was super interesting.
Yeah.
Which they end up getting to overtime, but then they lose. But like Şengün played 21 minutes in that game.
I know.
And statistically, like he had been good. Like he was already at 14, 10, and 4 through 21 minutes, and then did not play again. And meanwhile, like Tari Eason and Amen Thompson come in and just wreak havoc.
Yeah.
For like 30 straight minutes.
Yeah. And they continue to kind of reference that last stretch without Şengün.
Yeah.
Post game. And so I'm really interested to see what that game looks like. But like the Thunder need to take care of business in Denver. Like this is like a winnable road game against a team that I think a lot of us probably would have predicted they would have a loss here. A Wednesday night at altitude. Like the Thunder need to go take care of business in Denver. And then Houston, is certainly an interesting matchup, but I think clearly the most interesting matchup coming up is that Golden State game on Sunday, 6 p.m. tip in OKC. That is going to be fascinating to watch. Also, fascinating too to just see how do the Thunder guard Steph, like what strategies do they use? Because if I'm the Thunder, like I'm just like trying to force the ball away from Steph, and I am just chasing him through every screen and like not allowing him any daylight. And I'm doing it with probably one guy. And the beauty of it is it doesn't have to be the same guy through the whole game. You can give Kaysen the assignment to start the game. Then you can throw Caruso in, and you can throw Dort in on him. And I'm just really interested to see how they try to handle these like Steph minutes. Because thinking back, and obviously Trae Young is a much different player stylistically, but the Thunder handled Trae Young very well. And so I'm interested to see like with these teams that, and I know that they have depth and their depth has played well. But like Steph is still like the most consistent engine of their offense. The Buddy Hield stuff, it's going to come crashing down at some point. Like he's not going to be 50% from 3 on 10 attempts per game. Like that's just like this is not going to happen. And so it's not like you definitely don't want to dare him, but also the Thunder have the personnel. Like you could start with Kaysen on Steph and Dort on Buddy and just like shut that down. The Thunder are uniquely positioned to, shut some of this stuff down that some of these teams want to do.
Yeah, and it's nice that they're a small team as well.
Yeah.
So because one thing you mentioned, like things to worry about, without Hartenstein, the rebounding, while at times has looked better, has not necessarily been better. I mean, their ranking among the league is better, but their actual percentage is still worse than last year. Now this is on Cleaning the Glass in terms of like defensive rebounding, and their offensive rebounding isn't good either. I'm again not worried about it because we weren't really worried about it last year, and I do think we've seen enough from Chet to feel like, okay, well, at least he is being a more aggressive rebounder,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
just looks better overall as a
Mm.
rebounder. But yeah, their offensive rebounding currently they're ranked 26th.
Mhm.
Offensive or defensive rebounding, they're ranked a little bit higher. They're ranked 19th,
Mhm.
but the actual percentage still isn't very good. But Gold State's terrible too.
I
So
was gonna say Golden State aren't they the shortest team in
I
the
think they
NBA?
are. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they don't play bigs that scare you at all. And like we saw what the Thunder did with Zubats. Like they handled him very well with a smaller
Yeah.
team. Even when they went small, he didn't wasn't able to do a whole lot, especially in the second half. And he's had an awesome season. Zubats
Yeah.
has. I need to stop talking about Zubats on this podcast. I talk about him too much.
You just love him.
He's a good player. Like I just think he's probably one of the more underrated centers on the league. There's a lot of teams that would really want to have him, and it's funny looking back on it. Like honestly, like the Lakers are a team that would probably love to have a guy like Zubats, playing next to Anthony Davis. But it's the Mike Muscala for Zubats trade is such a weird one to look back in retrospect.
It was weird at the time.
It was weird at the time, and it's like weirder as time goes on. Like, and no like shade at Moose because we on this show we love Moose. He's the best, but I don't like that's just like one of those. It's one of those moves that like a front office makes that just like chips away a little bit at your team. Like these little bad decisions here and there and over again just like chip away at your chances of being good. And if the Lakers had him instead of the Clippers, they'd be in a much different spot. And like if the Clippers didn't have him and like they let Mike Muscala ride off into the sun, like what do they look like? Because he's been a huge part of them just like treading water as like a fine team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, that's all. That's my Andrew talks about the spots segment of the podcast.
I did want to look up. Let me see 3-point percentage again. So early in the season, I always like to look at how the opponents are shooting from three, because it's one of those things that most people think has a lot of luck involved. And so if you're a team at either end of the extreme, you can expect it to regress in some way. Mm-hmm. So the teams who have had the worst luck in terms of their opponent shooting the best from three, your Atlanta Hawks, Andrew.
Shout out.
30th in the league.
ATL.
Teams are shooting 39.8% against them.
Hey, listen,
and then Philly.
There's hope at the end of that.
Yeah, that should improve. Number one. Now, you heard me just say teams are shooting 39.8% against Atlanta.
Yeah.
Number one, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Teams are currently shooting 28.2% from three against them. Number two, Golden State. Teams are currently shooting 28.3% against them.
Makes sense.
Now, as Thunder fans, I think we're going to make the argument, well, look at our perimeter defenders. Like, maybe there's something to this. And that might be true. Like, there might be something to their quote-unquote 3-point defense.
Yeah.
But it's probably not going to be 28.2%.
No.
That is so low.
No.
I mean, let's see. For reference, last year, the team that was number one in this stat, Houston, team shot 34.8% against them.
Yeah. And the Thunder have been killing teams too. Like they have. I mean, there's not been like one game that you get down to like the last 5 minutes and you're like, okay, what's going to happen here? Like, no, like all of them, all 7 have been over.
Yeah.
And so, and some of it too, like they just played Orlando, who could not hit anything. Like it was so bad.
So
they were
bad.
5 of 34 for Orlando from 3. I mean, they were atrocious. So yeah, I mean that will definitely improve for the teams playing against OKC. And some of it is the perimeter defense, absolutely. Like they are contesting the shots, like the high quality shots from other teams. Like they very like the Thunder like deeply care about like shot quality. for themselves and for their opponents. You know, they want to take away quality shots from their opponents, and they want to find quality shots for themselves. I mean, it's not like the Thunder are the only team that do that, but they do deeply care about that. And so, you know, they're going to use all of that to their advantage, and they do. I mean, they probably have the best. You know, they at least have like a top 3 perimeter defensive trio in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's probably them and Boston. They're like, who else would even be on this list?
For specifically perimeter D.
Yeah, New York when they're healthy
Yeah.
is like another one. But like Brunson is not that guy, you know. Whereas like with the Thunder, like the drop off is to Shea, and like Shea's good. So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we got to season's end and they were number 1 still, but it was like 34 or 35% from 3 for the opponents. Like that would make way more sense. But yeah, it's been really impressive. They've been really impressive. Fred Katz wrote about the Thunder's defense on The Athletic today. You should go check that out. Support a former Thunder beat writer in Fred Katz, who is now a national writer at The Athletic and is doing a great job. And I mean, he's a national writer. He's going to be writing about the Thunder. So go check that out today. It's good stuff. What else, Al? What else has stuck out to you before we go?
I'm just looking at the Western Conference right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the right now, I actually find the East way more interesting than the West. I just feel like the West, it's going to take so much time to shake out. And other than the Pelicans being 14th right now, where the teams are in the standings, like it makes sense. Like it's names you're familiar with seeing. You know, the Pelicans being 14th is really the only one that stands out. Is like, whoa, I even if I was low on them, I wouldn't have thought they'd be that low. And they're only 3-5, so it's you know, they're a game back of 10th. But in the East, I mean, the fact that teams like the Sixers and Bucks are already 6 games back of Cleveland.
I know.
Already 5 games back of Boston. I said Brooklyn because Brooklyn is the 3rd seed right now in the East. I think that is so much more interesting. And I didn't believe it on Friday, Andrew, when we were talking to Bryce about Detroit. It kind of felt like we were doing this little song and dance again. Like, are we really fake buying into a 1-5 team or whatever it was? And they've now won 3 in a row or 2 in a row. They're 3-5, and maybe they can be the 10 seed. Like in this Eastern Conference, who knows?
It's totally possible that they are. Philly and Milwaukee are going to pass them at some point. Like that's
so it's more of a question, but you assume Brooklyn would come back because
Brooklyn's coming back. They're falling back. Detroit legitimately looked impressive against the Lakers. I'm trying, and I don't know if that says more about Detroit or more about the Lakers at this point to me. I think it certainly says something about both, but I wonder if it says more about the Lakers. And I cited the stat on Slam and Jam, but at the time, and I'll have to look this up again, but teams were shooting 77% at the rim against the Lakers. Like that is bad. You know, Mark Daigneault talks about, you know, yes, they want to get good threes, but they'd rather have dunks and layups, you know. And if teams are shooting that good of a percentage against the Lakers at the rim, like we've got problems. And it's unsustainably bad for the Lakers there. I'm sure it's improved even since then. But you know, that is a huge problem. And like JJ Redick is going to have like gray hair by April, you know, in like a very like presidential way, in my opinion of like what's going to happen there.
Man, the gap. So this is from Clean the Glass. So the Lakers are 4th worst, but the worst team is the Knicks. 77.1% opponents are shooting at the rim, in comparison to OKC, who is number 1, 55.2% at the rim. That is a 22% gap right now in terms of opponent shooting at the rim.
Dude, it's a gap that like makes no sense. Like that, it's something that like just should not be. Like this should not happen.
Yeah, even if you're super low on Towns as a defender, which I think most people are, still 77% at the rim.
Yeah, the Lakers have improved. They're up to 72%, and it is the Knicks as the worst for NBA.com as well, which gives you all of the time and not just the non-garbage time. But it's the Knicks at 76%, Bulls 73, Wizards 72, Lakers 71, Philly 70. You know, but they'll improve when Embiid gets there. But what scares, and like the Knicks one, you can explain because they just don't have big guys right now. For the Lakers, like what's the excuse? You know, the Bulls get it, Wizards get it, Philly get it, Blazers whatever. But for the Lakers, like what's the explanation? Like this is supposed to be their team. Like they're not waiting on guys to get healthy. They're not, dealing with things to begin the season. They're not really dealing with injuries that, I guess if you want to cry about Jared Vanderbilt, like I think he would help some, but I don't think like that's a guy that necessarily is soaking up a ton of minutes for them. And Anthony Davis is day to day, and like without him, like what is that? That's scary as to what that looks like. And I think the Lakers are probably riding a little bit on their nice start to the season, but there's been a lot of concerning things happening in LA, and I fear for our fellow podcaster out there in JJ.
His little run at the start of the season. Hopefully that's not as good as it gets for JJ this season, because people were very excited about the Lakers.
Yeah.
People were loving what JJ was implementing.
I know. People were falling all over themselves to compliment him. They were just like couldn't get to the tweets fast enough.
To their credit, though, you compare their schedule to some of these other West teams. They've played Minnesota, Phoenix, Sacramento, Phoenix, Cleveland, and then Toronto, Detroit. Like that's a pretty legit opening schedule.
Yeah, no,
a lot of these other teams we're talking about.
Yeah, to beat Minnesota, to beat Phoenix, and to beat Sacramento, like that's a great start. That's a great start for them.
It was warranted. Like it wasn't like they were beating cream puff teams.
Yeah.
But things have turned.
Things have turned. That Detroit loss was concerning because the Pistons beat them pretty badly.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued to see where that goes.
This is so much fun though, because we talked about who's second in the West. Really the big takeaway is like OKC's in a class of their own.
Like very obviously.
Yeah, even if you really like Phoenix or Golden State, who are 6-1, like you still have to admit OKC is in a class of their own. There's not really a number 2 in like a concerning sense.
Yeah,
it's not like you're Boston, the East, and the Cavs are like, okay, they're a legit threat. Like the Cavs look completely different and look really, really good.
Yeah, that's why
I was not that team.
Yeah, that's why I was asking the question, on Monday to people, just because it's just like, okay, who else is going to show up? And somebody will look really good going into the playoffs. There will be trades made. Think about Dallas, at this point last year, and like how they completely overhauled their roster, mid-season, and became a very good team that eventually made it to the finals. So like teams will change, certainly, and especially with the amount of like mediocre to the amount of underperforming teams in this league right now. I think that there will be trades made, and I think the trade deadline could be pretty interesting in that way. So somebody is going to be good going into the playoffs, and somebody will push the Thunder. I don't think they're just going to just walk to the NBA Finals or anything like that. But if you're just judging off these first handful of games, like it does feel like it's the Thunder and then everybody else, which is what people said before the season started as well. It's not like this is some surprise. They're just like meeting expectation is what they're doing. And honestly, like I don't think anybody on our show would have predicted 7-0, for this team, and some of it's circumstantial, certainly, but that's the NBA. Like you just
Yeah.
play who's ever in front of you. And the Thunder have had weird losses. I mean, I read it out on Monday for the pod, but like the Thunder just don't start like this. They've clearly, this is the best start in franchise history, 7-0. But the other best start in the last decade was a 5-1 start from the Russell Westbrook, Victor Oladipo, Domantas Sabonis at the
I
fourth.
know. I heard you say that again with McKellar, and I do not remember that season getting off to such a good start.
Yeah, it feels, obviously it feels way different than it did then, because I feel like we were all kind of looking around at each other. So in 16, 17, like, okay, this is cool, but like I don't think this is who this is. I don't think that they lose Kevin Durant and then and stay just who they are. And like obviously that fell off a cliff. But other like great teams in Thunder history, the 15-16 team was 500 to start the season. All the Paul George teams did not get off to hot starts, 3-3, 2-4. Even last year's team was 3-3 to start the season.
Yeah,
I remember getting a text from you saying, "Is Houston better than OKC?" last year. I remember
I was freaking out.
There was some panic.
I was very panicked at the beginning of the last season.
And honestly, that felt a little bit more. And like looking back at it, it's like, oh, it's kind of understandable why that would have felt like a little bit more normal for the start of a season. Like I'm not used to covering. In fact, like I don't think I've ever covered a Thunder team that has like ever started out of the gate like this, where it's like they're clearly the best team. It always felt like we were getting like 20 or 30 games in, and we were always having to try to argue that like,
I know I'm like looking ahead on the schedule, like when do they play Boston or Cleveland? Because that's what I really want to see, and it's not till January 5th.
I was gonna say and it's in the same week.
Yeah.
They play Boston on the 5th, they play Cleveland, and then they have 2 games off before they go and play Cleveland on the road.
That'll be a nice little stretch. Listen, we know we're going to get punched in the mouth
at some point
in one of these next couple games, more than likely.
Yeah, I wonder if all the Draymond garbage.
You think that'll fuel them?
I think so. I mean, they say they're not paying attention to it. They're focused on internal stuff, but it's just human nature. One, they've definitely heard that. They definitely have heard what he said. And like, I do believe they don't care, but also like saying that like nobody fears you or whatever, it's all so stupid. Like I honestly I don't care either what Draymond says, but I just wonder like how that's going to sit with them on Sunday against Golden State, which they honestly would have had like no fuel for that game necessarily going into that one. Like you want to win every game that's in front of you. But I think like having some fuel going into that one will be interesting. And like we said earlier, like that's one of their first tests is like, what does that look like? And so, I mean, I would like to see them just steamroll the Warriors for many reasons, but this one being one of them.
Yeah, Draymond. I mean, we know as guys who do podcasts, but sometimes you just have to say something.
You just got to have.
And I feel like what Baron his take was whatever, but Baron Davis's take was actually like more takey to me because I just would have never thought of his take. He was just saying he was essentially saying that like the post game scrums, like good vibes of the team isn't good. You need to have more hierarchy. Guys need to know their place. That was his takeaway from that.
Such a weird take. And it's funny because like the Thunder, without even like commenting on BD's, whatever he said, but somebody even mentioned hierarchy the other day in a post-game presser. And Mark's like first thing he said after that was like, I want to push back on the hierarchy thing because like that's not how we handle things around here.
Yeah.
And it's clearly not. And I do agree that when you get to the playoffs, you have to.
You need to know who your guys are.
But they know who their guys are. That's a stupid reason to think that they don't know who their guys are. That like somehow SGA, J-Dub, and Chet are going to be looking over at Aaron Wiggins to like, okay, Aaron, like we need you to. We don't. What order is this? Is it your turn to do? Like, no, no, it's stupid.
Honestly, you think about players on the Thunder who might like try to play above their role,
Yeah.
like it's Dort, because we've seen Dort do that in the past. He's just willing to shoot.
Yeah.
And then honestly, like Giddy sometimes in the past would try to take over games.
Yep.
So like he's gone, and so really it's Dort. All these other guys, like they all get it.
And Dort's been amazing this year too.
Do you know what Dort's shooting from the rim or at the rim?
I don't know. Please tell me. I just want to hear it.
So I didn't even believe this. I saw someone on Twitter tweet it out, and I was like, "There's no way it's that good." Currently from the rim. Now this is no garbage time. He is shooting 73%. For reference, the highest number in his 6-year career before this, 57%. He's shooting 73% at the rim.
I'm almost afraid that you're saying it out loud now that I'm hearing it.
I know. I just hadn't checked on it, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, he would be third on the team in from 0 to 3 feet. Wiggins is shooting 83%. Chet is 80%. Dort from 0 to 3 is 77%. Shea 75. Oos 71. J-Dub 65, which that will get better. And then it's like AJ's at 50. Queso's at 47. Weird. And then Alex Crusoe's at 20%, which will obviously also get better. The one thing that obviously I like, Crusoe's great. I think he's going to be a fan favorite, for a while here in OKC. But one of the things that I love most about watching him is he gets more visibly frustrated with himself than almost any player that I've watched on the team. Like you can just see him just being like so visibly and like expressively mad at himself when he makes a mistake. He missed one at the rim the other night against Orlando, and just like getting up for you just see him just like, ugh. Like he's like just really fun to watch because he's always doing something and always creating some kind of havoc. But just like, the emotions that he shows on the court too, I think will, especially once he starts playing well offensively, that will just like lend him to be like certainly a fan favorite.
Oh yeah, I mean you can already see the flashes of like why people rate him so highly defensively.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. And it's crazy that you can bring him off the bench. And as like, what is he? He's like their 8th guy right now, 7th guy right now. It's wild.
Yeah, if people want to know currently the on-off numbers, like who are on-off kings this year so far through 7 games. Shea, number 1, plus 12.8.
Okay.
Kaysen, number 2, plus 10.7.
Wow.
Caruso, number 3, plus 8.1.
What's Joe?
He's 4th, plus 3.9.
Okay. Yeah, Isaiah Joe hasn't made a shot at the rim. Hasn't made a shot at 0 to 3 feet yet. So
really,
we know that will increase. I mean, it says 0% here on Basketball Reference.
Interesting.
Yeah. No shots for Dukas at the rim yet. So.
Dukas.
Still waiting for Dukas. Okay. Still loving the styles of AJ Mitchell. I think that he's super fun. Big shout out to Oos, 71% from 0 to 3 feet. Oos has been fine. Just want to give those guys a quick shout.
He's been fine. He's also shooting like 38% from the field.
You know what? Don't care.
They've been surviving his minutes, and he's been mostly good defensively, but he is also shooting 38% from the field.
Yeah. Don't care.
He will not play. I'll just say this.
Yeah.
He's playing quote unquote well. He would not be in a playoff rotation. He's not playing that well.
No, he will not play in the playoffs.
He's playing like good injury reserve. Hopefully you don't have to rely on him at any point beyond January.
Which is better than what we expected.
Sure.
I'll say that.
And he's racking up minutes for my bold prediction right now, because I know at some point it's going to dry up. So I need him to play as many minutes as he can right now.
Question, are Hartenstein and Jay Will actually hurt? Or are the Thunder trying to fix this bold prediction?
I don't know. He's already at 96 minutes for the season. That's pretty good through 7 games.
He
only played 365 last year.
Refresh my memory on what the actual prediction was.
The prediction was that this was before I knew Jay Will had a hamstring injury. It was that Oos would play more minutes than Jay Will. It was just a completely random prediction.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm being helped right now by the fact that Jay Will has been out with an injury.
Yeah.
But
he aggravated it.
Yeah, and Hartenstein and Kenrich.
Yeah.
So Oos has gotten a nice little head start here, but again, he's been fine, but he has not played so well that I'm expecting these minutes to continue when everyone is healthy.
Yeah, you better not. Yeah, I feel like we need Kenrich back at least for like this Dylan Brooks matchup on Friday. Like we need somebody, and on Sunday for the Draymond Green matchup. Like we need somebody like Kenrich out there. I fear for Oos a little bit in those in those particular matchups. I hope that Kenrich is back. Okay, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, Down to Dunk Night this Friday. The Fry Pod live this Friday night after the game at Lively Beer Works. Join us. It will be in the back area. If you came to our watch party for the playoffs, it'll be in that same area that's in the back. So join us there for the Fry Pod live. It will be a very, very fun time. Very much looking forward to that. Huge shout out to Lively Beer Works for hosting us. So yeah, we'll go set up early in the day, and then like we'll be ready to do the show like not that long after the buzzer. So well, I guess not long after the buzzer, after we do the half court shot. And then after that, we will head right over there and then the show will start. So again, if you are not attending Down to Dunk Night and you want to attend the Fry Pod live, just come to Lively Beer Works after the game and get your spot. And then you'll be able to watch the Fry Pod live. We want to do live questions. So people coming up, asking their questions, you get to be actually a part of the show, which I think will be really fun. So very much looking forward to that. Join us at Lively Beer Works after the game and Down to Dunk Night this Friday at the arena. Again, half court shot winners will get a signed basketball by the Oklahoma City Thunder team and really nice tickets from friend of the pod, Andrew Heaney. So looking forward to that. Can't wait to see all your faces. Also, if you see me at the game, I've got tons of Down to Dunk stickers. I've been handing them out at the game so far this season. Seen lots and lots of dunkers, which has been really fun. But if you see me on Down to Dunk Night, certainly ask if you can have a sticker because I've got plenty of them. So I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. We'll talk to you guys again on Friday night.